What is up guys, A7 Snipes here, and in today's video, we're gonna do a complete takeover of Manchester United as Sir Alex Ferguson. Yes, you heard it right. We're bringing the legendary, iconic manager back to Manchester United. So here we got Sir Alex Ferguson, and I know it doesn't look exactly like him, but we tried our best. But other than that, we're here to make changes and to make Manchester United great again. So this is how our team is looking like. We got Ferguson, or however you say his name, as striker. Bruno Fernandes as our captain in the midfield, with Maino, Amrabat, and Garnacho and Anthony in the wing. And then in the defense, we got Wan-Bissaka, Martinez, Casemiro, and Dalot. And of course, in goal, Onana. And as you can see, we got a lot of good substitutes and reserves. But I think if we go into the mind of Sir Alex Ferguson and how he works things, I think he will sell some of the important players that we have now. So we might have to be selling some players and clean up the squad a bit. So let's get it started. So the first player that we're going to be selling is Raphael Varane. He has only 12 months in his contract, and I think it's his time to go. Also, I think another defender that has to leave is Lindelof. And then another important player in Manchester United that's gonna leave is Anthony Martial. He's been years in Manchester United but hasn't showed his true potential, and I think it's his time to go. So these are the three top important players that are gonna be leaving the squad. And of course, there's gonna be other players that are gonna be leaving that are not as known as these three. So now that we're selling some players, let's bring in now some new important players. So the first player that we brought in is Federico Chiesa from Juventus. We put him in a right wing position, replacing Anthony. And I think Sir Alex Ferguson would agree with this signing. Next, we bought a top class defender, and that is the Elite from Juventus also. We put Casemiro back in that center defensive mid position, and now we have a real center back in that position. We also bought a youngster by goes the name of Xerxes. He's an actual player that Manchester United could be signing in the upcoming days or weeks. So it's someone realistic that we actually got him in the team. Another young talent that has joined the team is Neves. He has great potential and also has been linked to Manchester United in real life. And of course, for now, he's in the reserves position. But of course, Sir Alex Ferguson decides where he plays at the end of the day. So realistically, he could be in the reserves, but at the end of the season, he could have some playing time. We just gotta wait and see. So this is our starting 11. We got Ferguson in the striker position, Garnacho and Chiesa as our wingers, Bruno Fernandes, Maino, and Casemiro as our midfielders, Luke Shaw, Martinez, Delete, and Dalot as the defenders, and Onana in goal. So I think we've improved this team a decent amount. We didn't change too much players, but I think we improved the positions that needed improvement. Now that we're ready, let's get the season started. So our first match in the Premier League is against Wolves. But of course, to make things go faster, and also with me not affecting the results, we're gonna be simming throughout the whole entire season. So let's get right into it. So now that the simulations have finished, we see that in the first month of the season, August, we win our first game of the Premier League against Wolves, and then lose our second game against Spurs. But then the next week we win once again in the Premier League against Nottingham Forest. So now to start off the month of September, we start off with an important win against Arsenal in the league, and then we win Brighton in the league also. And then a couple days later, we play in our first game of the Champions League against Bayern Munich, which we lose 3-1. But then once again, we win in the league, and then we lose in penalties in a cup game, which I'm not sure if it's the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, but it seems that we're eliminated early on in whatever tournament that is. And then to end off the month of September, we draw against Crystal Palace in the Premier League. Now the first game of October, we have a Champions League game which we draw against Galatasaray, which is not a good start at all for our first two matches in the Champions League. But then we take a dub against Brentford in the Premier League. Then we draw the next week in the league. And in the Champions League, we play our third game, which we draw against Copenhagen 2-2. And then in the Manchester Derby, we draw against Manchester City. Not a bad result against a top team. So now our first match in the month of November, we draw against Fulham. And then we have another Champions League game against Copenhagen, which we draw again. But then against Luton Town, we win in the league 2-1. And then once again, we win in the Premier League against Everton, destroying them 3-0. And then finally, we get our first win in the Champions League Could it be enough to go into the next round of the Champions League? I hope so. Now in December, we start off with 3 league games. First against Newcastle, which we win. And then against Chelsea, we also win. And then against Bournemouth, we beat them 2-0. So 3 league games in a row that we take the W. And then in the Champions League, we lose against Bayern Munich. And it doesn't look good at all for us. But then after that game, we have another important game. But this time in the league, against Liverpool, which we draw 1-1. And then to end off the 3 last games for the month in the Premier League, we win against West Ham, win against Aston Villa, but then draw against Nottingham Forest. So now to start off the new year, we win in a cup game against Wimbledon, but then we draw against Spurs 2-2 in the Premier League. But then we win Liverpool in a cup game, advancing probably to the next round, so that's a massive W. And then to end off the month of January, we win in the Premier League 2-0 against Wolves. We start off February with a loss against West Ham, and then a draw against Aston Villa. But then in the UEL, which I think is the Europa League, so I'm guessing we didn't make it to the next round of the Champions League, we win against Slavia. And then in the league, we lose against Luton Town. That's insane. And then we have a second leg against Slavia, once again beating them 3-0, absolutely destroying them in aggregate. Then after that, we have a league game against Fulham, which we win. And then in a cup game, we lose against Leeds. No way. So I guess we're eliminated? We start off the month of March with a massive W against Manchester City, beating them in the Manchester Derby. Then after, we have another Europa League game against Brighton, which we draw. And then we beat Everton in the league once again. And then win against Brighton 2-0 in the second leg of the Europa League. But sadly, we end with a negative note, losing against Brentford 2-1. And then to start off the month of April, we draw against Chelsea and then lose against Liverpool in the Premier League. And it seems that we're having a streak of poor results in the Premier League, which is not good at all. But where we're not doing poor is in the Europa League, because we beat Freiburg 5-1 in the Europa League, absolutely obliterating them. And then taking that momentum to the Premier League, beating Bournemouth 2-1. And then beating Freiburg in the second leg, and I'm sure advancing to the next round. And then the last 3 games of the month of April in the Premier League, we win all 3. But sadly, after that streak of good games, we lose in the Europa League against Bayern Leverkusen 3-1 in the first leg. And then in the second leg, we win 2-3. But if my calculations aren't wrong, we sadly lose and probably are eliminated from the Europa League, because in aggregate, it's 5-4. But for the last 3 games of the Premier League, we win Crystal Palace, we draw against Arsenal, and we win against Brighton. So now that we finish seeing the results throughout the whole season, let's go check out the standings of the Premier League and the other tournaments we played in. So in the Premier League, we ended up being 4th with 23 wins, 10 draws, and 5 losses, and a total of 79 points. We did not do as expected, but if you want to take anything positive from this, at least we qualified to the next Champions League. And Liverpool at the end are champions of the Premier League with 94 points, and then Manchester City in second with 86. So now let's check the other tournaments we played in. So of course, if y'all remember, in round 3 we beat Wimbledon. I wasn't sure what tournament that was, so I guess that was the FA Cup. And then we won in the round 4 against Liverpool, which was a massive W. But then we lost in round 5 against Leeds 2-0 and being eliminated from the FA Cup. And in the final, it was Arsenal against Spurs, which Arsenal take the cup and become champions of the FA Cup. So now that we know we didn't make it far in the FA Cup, let's see if we did better in the Carabao Cup. So in this tournament, we didn't even make it to the quarterfinals, losing against Newcastle in round 3 in penalties. What a cruel way to be eliminated. And the winners of the Carabao Cup are Manchester City, beating Arsenal in the final. So that's a bit of salt in the wound, because our arch rivals won the competition. So that kind of stinks, I'm not gonna lie. So now let's go check the Champions League and see what happened. So in Group A, we ended up being 3rd with 6 points, tied with 2nd with Copenhagen. But I guess their overall stats as a team was better than ours. And then Galatasaray were completely eliminated from Europe, And of course, Bayern Munich and Copenhagen made it to the round of 16. So now that we saw what happened to us in the Champions League, let's go check out the competition we did play, which is the Europa League. But before that, the winners of the Champions League is Manchester City, beating Atletico Madrid 3-0 in the final. That's kind of crazy. And our arch rivals win another major trophy. So now let's go check out the Europa League. And of course, we absolutely destroy Slavia. And then in the round of 16, we beat Brighton. And in the quarterfinals, we beat Freiburg. And then in the semi-finals, we lose against Bayern Leverkusen. I remember that. And don't make it to the final. We were one step closer. No way. So I'm guessing Bayern Leverkusen and Liverpool were the final, and Bayern Leverkusen win it. So now that we saw the Europa League champions, I'm a bit curious to see who won the Conference League. And the winners of the Conference League are Besiktas, beating another Premier League team. So now that we saw how we did in the tournaments we played in, let's go check out our player stats. So the top scorer of the Premier League is Martinelli with 23 goals, followed by Son with 22, and then Federico Chiesa in 6th place with 17 goals. We'll take that. And then our captain Bruno Fernandes with 13 goals. Very impressive. And yes, we see Hojin in 12th place with 12 goals. So 3 of our players representing us good. So now let's go check the top assisters of the Premier League. And Bruno Fernandes with 15 assists in 38 matches leads and takes the award for the most assists. We also can see Dalot and Chiesa tied with 5 assists in the 24th and 25th place. And now for the most clean sheets, the award goes to Ederson with 12, and then our goalkeeper Onana with 10. So now that we saw some of our players in this list, let's go see the player stats of our whole team, especially the top players. So as we can see, Matthias de Ligt, one of our mega signings that we did in the beginning of the season, played 30 games with 1 goal, 0 assists, and 5 clean sheets. So it seems he had a pretty decent season. And then Lisandro Martinez, the Argentinian, with 37 appearances, 4 goals, and 3 assists, and 10 clean sheets. So he seems he played more games than de Ligt and did much better stats than him. And then the Brazilian Anthony with 33 games, 8 goals, 4 assists. So even though we had him in the substitutes, I guess Sir Alex Ferguson played him a good amount of games and he low-key delivered. Now to Marcus Rashford, that only played 12 games, made only 3 goals and 1 assist. That's insane. So I guess Sir Alex Ferguson did not play him at all throughout the season. And of course, Federico Chiesa with 37 appearances, 17 goals, 5 assists, with a 73 average rating, and for now our MVP of the team. But then Alejandro Garnacho with only 2 appearances, 0 goals, 0 assists. That is crazy. Now on to Mason Mount, one of our super subs that played 20 games, 1 goal and 2 assists. So Sir Alex Ferguson played him a decent amount, even though he was one of our substitutes. Joe Neves, one of our youngsters that we signed in the beginning of the season, made 22 appearances, 1 goal, and 0 assists. So it seems that Sir Alex Ferguson believed in him and played him a decent amount of times. And then Casemiro only played 28 games, 1 goal, and 1 assist. Miano, that was also in the starting 11 squad, only played 3 games, 0 goal, and 0 assists. So another player that Sir Alex Ferguson did not play a lot. And then our captain, Bruno Fernandes, with 38 games, 13 goals, and 15 assists, and an average rating of 73. Another MVP of the team, setting an example as a captain. And then lastly, one of our other signings from the beginning of the season, Zirkzee, played only 16 games but made 7 goals. And then our striker, Hojin, played 29 games, made 12 goals and 1 assist. So now overall, the stats of our players, it seems that they did pretty decent overall. Some players played a good amount, others didn't. Players that I thought was going to have a good enough playing time and were important players of the team, Sir Alex Ferguson decided to play them barely. But hey, it's his decision at the end of the day, so we just gotta accept it. But sadly, we did not win any trophies, even though Sir Alex Ferguson came back to manage Manchester United and also signing some good players to the team. It just wasn't good enough. Maybe this team needs more improvement. So if y'all want to see a second season of this takeover as Sir Alex Ferguson, then let me know down below in the comments. That being said, we came to the end of the episode. I hope y'all enjoyed. Like and subscribe, y'all, and I'm out. Peace.